Hi everyone, and happy Customer Experience Day. From around the world, we've seen hundreds of tweets today as we started off our celebration in Australia, continued through Greece, Finland, the UK, and now we are headed over to the East Coast here in the United States. We have an awesome panel for you today, and they will be talking about unlocking employee engagement. Please keep in mind that throughout this 30-minute Google Plus Hangout, you have the opportunity to ask this panel questions, and you can do that here on Google Plus by adding a comment with your question, or you can do it through Twitter. You just need to include hashtag CXDay. So again, please feel free to ask questions to our live panel as we go along today, and we really look forward to celebrating this CX Day with you. If you haven't been to the site yet, please visit www.cxday.org. We have announced our 2014 CX Impact Award winners, and our blog carnival is live, and you can catch great information from top CX thought leaders through our blog carnival, and you can find that link at community.cxpa.org, and we'll post those in the comments as well. So right now I'd like to turn over this Hangout to Ginger Conlon, who will get our panel kicked off today. And again, remember, you can ask your questions live here in the comments section or on Twitter using #CXDay. Ginger?
Thanks, Leslie. I'm excited to be here, and welcome everybody, and happy Customer Experience Day. So we have a great panel, as Leslie said, on unlocking employees' enthusiasm for customer experience. On the panel joining us today, we have Nancy Flowers, who's Vice President of Client Experience at Hagerty Insurance Agency and one of the 2014 Customer Experience Award winners. Woo! Also with us is Jim Rembach, who is Marketing and Strategy Consultant at Beyond Morale, among his many other roles. Jeannie Walters, who is CEO and Chief Customer Experience Investigator at 360 Connects. And my co-host, Diane Majors, who works at the Office of the Customer for AT&T. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Diane, who's going to kind of set the tone and talk a little bit about the whys and the hows of this discussion for today.
Thanks, Ginger, for that handoff. Great, and welcome everybody. We're very excited to have you be a part of our Google Hangout today. We're going to be talking about what's most important for delivering great customer experiences, and that is every single employee that works with an organization that provides either directly or indirectly that experience to our customers, and how important it is that we engage them and unlock their enthusiasm, making them miniature CX professionals in order to design, develop, and deliver great experiences. We're going to start today with talking about some of the strategies for kind of starting out and engaging those employees, and then we'll kind of graduate to more of the emerging and energizing capabilities that those of us who have been in the customer experience profession for a while know. So today you're going to walk away with some great tips, hints, and tricks to help unlock your employees' enthusiasm. So we're going to start today with posting questions to the group. Nancy, I'd like to start with you, and again, congratulations on your award. What are the best ways that you found to educate employees on customer experience?
Well, there's so many different ways. I think a few tips I have is that do share insights early and often with the front line. They love it, and I think sometimes we shy away from that as CX professionals because we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. If we're showing a metric that maybe isn't as delightful as we'd like to see it. But I would say share it anyway, and have faith in those frontline employees that they want the information, make the insights about the problem, the policy, the process, lack of tools or training, not the people, and they will eat it up. I think one thing as professionals we have to remember too is that communications is a huge part of your role if you're leading a CX discipline. And a wise CX expert, also known as Diane, one time told me, she said, make friends with corporate communications. And that is something I live by. I utilize corporate communications and our training group a lot because for one thing, if it's not always coming from you, it feels more like it's an organizational initiative than it is a personal initiative. just a couple of my few favorite ways of sharing mini breakout sessions. I do a lot of just asking department managers, can I come to your meeting and talk about this? And they love to have the topics. Open lunch and learns. I often will play like a CXPA webinar and bring in food. If you bring in food, they come and then they listen, and again, it's from other experts and not from you. And then I use our internal social site, and I have my team. We all have, actually we have like an editorial calendar, and we're all responsible to post things on a regular basis, so then the burden's not so heavy on me. So those are a few of my tips.
That's terrific. Thank you so much for sharing. Hey, Jim, you've done this with quite a few organizations. You want to share some of the ways that you've seen them build enthusiasm with employees?
You know, as I was thinking about this question, something, you know, I thought was actually more apropos for me to talk about, and I'd like to read a little note that I got as I put my cheaters on here. That I received back in August of 1998. And it says, Jim, I appreciate so much the time that you were able to give to me and for your critique and impact. I value your directness, insight, and suggestions, and most especially value the challenge that you have presented to me for my professional and personal growth and development. Last night I was able to reflect for about an hour on our conversation and will make time to find resources to utilize my new endeavor. Thank you so much for the opportunity and challenge to continue to grow and learn my new skills. And then she says, P.S. Personally, I think that you have given your meaning, or the meaning to your job description, a whole new view. And that was from Diane Wilson. And I keep this note with me because I think that's one of the things that people really miss sight of, is that we are all dealing with people, human beings, emotions, feelings, and you have to connect. It doesn't matter if you're trying to implement CX. It really, you know, if you just need better ditches dug, you have to connect. And we're losing that skill in a lot of ways. We're losing our listening skills and a lot of the things that are associated with connecting with one another because of just the bombardment of information and the ability to tune out. So I would say, develop your skills to focus in on individuals, and then therefore they will pick up and carry the torch together with you.
That is great sage advice, Jim. Thank you so much. Ginger?
Yeah, actually, Jim, you make a good point when you were talking about resources, and that's a question that I wanted to pose to Jeannie. Jeannie, can you talk about some of the tools and resources that managers can use to build that enthusiasm among their employees for customer experience and, you know, related initiatives?
Sure. Yeah, well, I just want to underline everything that Nancy said about communication, because really when it comes down to it, that's such a huge part of how we get the information out to the people who need to use these things to instill the best customer experience they can. And I think one of the things that can happen is, as things happen, especially now with social media and how things go viral, a lot of that is negative, and so that's the stuff that gets shared. And I think it's really critical for leaders in any organization to look at what are the positive ways that we can share what works best. And a lot of times that comes from your front line, that comes from the people who are working directly with the customers. And if that's not shared and if that's not celebrated, then they're constantly in fear of doing something wrong instead of really looking for ways to do something right. So one of my favorite examples, Rackspace, which is known for their customer experience, they pass out a straitjacket for the fanatic in their customer service department, the person who went above and beyond. So I think those little call-outs for people as a tool are really, really important, because it showcases what to do right in those circumstances. And actually AT&T is another great example. They create an internal tribe of folks who then share information outside. And I think that's a great way to invite people into the process and use things like the intranet and corporate communications and all these tools that we already have in a way that really supports customer experience in general.
Yeah, absolutely. It kind of reminds me of a couple jobs ago, we had a 6-foot pencil, and whoever get the best proofreading catch, because everyone on the team proofread, would get the pencil for that month. And sometimes even the art director would make a great catch. So it was like really inclusive and brought in, when you're thinking about customer experience, you want kind of everyone in the organization involved, right? So you can
Right.
think of these creative approaches. So Diane, turning it back over to you.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing the group really say, and it's so true, is that thinking about engaging employees doesn't have to be this huge program. It's all these little things that we do, right? The day in, day out drip method, I call it, right? So great takeaways. Everybody's kind of got the same approach, and hopefully you took away some of those things. So back to Nancy. Nancy, can you kind of talk about how you felt like when we start to talk about energizing now, really how you saw yourself making progress? How did you know you were making progress with employees?
Well, I think the biggest way that I knew I was making progress is that there was a real transition from what I would say me pushing out information, right? Like, and pushing myself into meetings and things like that. Like, you know, can I be involved in that? Boy, it'd be really great if you had some customer perspective in that, to what I call a pull now, where my team and myself are being pulled into things. So we're being asked to be at the meeting. We're having employees say, hey, can you listen to these calls? I think something's going on around here. So for me, the biggest sort of sign was from push to pull. And I like being pulled. So that's good.
That's terrific. Ginger.
Sorry, I'm on mute there for a moment. So those are some great examples of talking about the employee engagement side and getting involved, and then on the reverse of, you know, building that excitement so that people will come to you. Let's talk a little bit more now about just getting customer experience energized, like, throughout your organization. So let's start with you, Jeannie. How do you explain the importance of customer experience to your employees, especially those who aren't on the front line, because those people impact customer experience as well?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think this is a typical kind of challenge that we have, especially in big organizations. And one of the biggest obstacles is the way that these organizations are often siloed. And sometimes if you look at how the customer experience itself is kind of architected, it's around the org chart instead of around the customer. And so it's really great if you can provide everybody that insight into what customers are actually dealing with. So a couple ways, you know, one is customer experience mapping. I know we all talk about it in customer journey mapping, but it can have a really profound impact on letting people know how exactly they're connected to the customer experience. And I would also say allowing people to experience it firsthand. So listen to call centers. You know, there are certain executives who make it a point to listen to a handful of calls every day. I think that's a great move. I also like when, you know, the CEO will sometimes go into the store and work in the store and really see that interaction. Those moments can help people internalize it so much more than numbers sometimes, that we really need to include more of those human connections so that they can really get what this is all about.
Yeah, exactly. I love to hear stories about that too, when the executives go down on the front lines and really experience. And I know of a couple of companies that actually will compensate or will charge back departments if they cause a customer experience problem that winds up in the call center. They get charged back for those calls, so it makes them rethink their processes instead of just saying, like, oh, well, you know, customer experience that's not us. So Diane, I know you're co-hosting with me, but I want to toss this question over to you. What are some of the things that you do in your role to jazz people about customer experience?
Oh gosh, we've recently done some pod courses that kind of talk through some of the ways that we can impact that human element, as Jim brought up. You know, really talking to people about the fact that we're not developing products and services. We're really all about that human connection. So the pod courses have been great. We've also really tried to bring everybody along in kind of that back office, people who think, I don't have anything to do with the customer experience. So we partnered with our brand team and had them begin to review some of the documents that were sent out and really start talking in a language that was more human. So even people who are writing communications who really thought, that's not really a touch point, we kind of showed them how they impacted that. Same with legal. Some of the people who think they don't really have an impact, they really do. So we've really tried to thread that through by showing people, yeah, you do at some point touch that customer and where they touched them. So those are just a couple of examples of how we've done that here at AT&T.
And if I can add to that, because Diane, I know somebody at AT&T who went out onto the polls with the guys to really see what that experience was like too, and I thought that was a great example as well. So AT&T is doing a lot of great stuff.
Great, thanks. So Nancy, can you provide an example of how you're going to continue to build? Kind of what's on your roadmap? What are some of the tricks that are up your sleeve to continue to do? Because you guys have such a great culture there. Obviously, you've got really good engagement. So what's next?
Well, it's funny. I'll reflect just based on the stories we're hearing, and would just encourage anybody to do it yourself. I mean, one of the things we try and do here is make the invisible visible, which really energizes our program. So a couple years ago, we recognized that there were all these awards for sales. We're a big sales organization, as many of us are. And we didn't see any awards for customer experience. And so, we sort of started down this path of putting together a formal recognition program and stuff, and it wasn't gaining a lot of momentum. We were getting a lot of head nods, like, yeah, we should do that. So we just took it upon ourselves to, and I stole this idea from some other CXPA professional, but I think it was Fidelity, who recognizes individuals that are called out on their surveys. So, the idea being, if you receive a survey and it says, hey, Ginger did a great job today, that really had an impact on that customer. They remembered Ginger's name. So we started putting green balloons every month on people's desks that we had read in an NPS survey that they got what we call a shout out here. And it went viral, and it led to a formal recognition program. So, now we have a fancy program where people earn points and money and things like that, but I would encourage anybody, I mean, it's as simple as a green balloon, and people were like, why do I have a green balloon? What's going on? And but so that's a little what we used to do. Some of the things we do now, I think one of the things that is important is not to just celebrate the individuals, but celebrate the discipline, because, again, everything can lose momentum after a while. So one of the things we've incorporated this year is all the people making follow-up calls on our surveys. We track those, we count those, we celebrate those. Another thing is we've really started innovating with employees, and that's been the single best thing, I think, to energize client experience this year is inviting them in to solve the problems with us, the front lines. So we do a simple exercise called Do More, Do Less, where we bring in the front lines and ask them what should we be doing more of and what should we be doing less of. And they love having that voice, and that's really helped energize our program. I think that's probably my top two right now.
That's terrific. Thank you. Those are great hints. And you're right, it's all about those small things and kind of looking for what's next and getting everybody else involved. Hey, Jim, so you worked again with lots of companies. What are some of the unique and innovative ways that you think are coming on that people can leverage? Jim, I think we may have lost it. Jim, are you there? Jeannie, I'll throw it out to you. It looks like Jim may be on hiatus for a second. Can you take that question?
Sure. Can you repeat it for me one more time?
Sure. We were just talking about some of the really unique and innovative ways that you see kind of new things that are coming fresh onto our profession to really engage the employees.
Well, I think a lot of it does come down to making sure that all of the different groups are connected, including the executives. And one of the things I saw recently at a client event, they have a beautiful campus, and randomly at a lunch hour when all the frontline employees were taking their breaks and out at lunch, the executives came out and did a flash mob basically thanking them for taking care of customers. And it was really amazing because these are the top people in the ivory tower, basically, who came down and all had the same T-shirts and did this dance around the fountain. And it was a really special moment to witness, because you could see that the folks on the front line felt like, whoa, this is really cool that we're being recognized this way. And I also think it's important to look at those old-fashioned numbers like employee retention, and if you're using NPS or if you're using customer satisfaction, really share that stuff with the people throughout the organization. Another example I saw that was not a great example was we walked into an organization that had a digital dashboard up with all of their great numbers, but they did not have one customer metric on that board. And so once they were able to change that frame of reference, they were really able to make a big difference in helping folks understand how they can make an impact on the customer experience.
Yeah, I would, Jeannie, when you said about displays, we have visual displays in all of our call centers that just used to have sort of, business metrics on it. Mm-hmm. And so now we have a screen that shows client comments as well as, some of those metrics. But another thing Jeannie mentioned that's I think is really also impactful is we have something, we're an automotive brand, so we have something called the Rumble, and every week the Rumble comes out and it highlights some snippets of people's phone calls delivering a great client experience. And that's been great for people that aren't on the front lines to hear what our front lines do day in and day out, like with our clients. So that's been a really fun kind of thing for our organization.
That's really unique and innovative. I love that. That visual. We have to remember how people learn, and some people are very visual, auditory learners, right? So that's a great way to kind of make it come to life, if you will, in front of everyone. So, Jim, are you back with us?
I am back. Looks like
there
there's
you are. There you are.
A little bit of a drop.
I'm looking for your thoughts on really unique and innovative ways that you've seen companies engage employees.
Well, I recently came across a study, and I wrote about it. I posted it as an article on my LinkedIn profile as well as on my blog about some work that Dr. Gregory Walton has done. And what he did is he found something that was very magical associated with helping organizations do something different and do some change. And the magic was, actually, let me try that. Using the word together and actually putting people in the mindset and the feeling that they're working on something as a group. And they found that the performance of the group was significantly higher when people felt that it is something that they were doing as part of a group effort. So there's a lot of little things that are out there right now that we're just wanting to go past and forget about. They're fundamental things, but if we put them into our normal practices, it can have some significant benefits and gains. So for me, I'm really studying the human behavior side of it and things that we're just often forgetting.
Fantastic. Ginger, I'm going to pass it over to you, but you're not off the hook. How about you? What unique and innovative ways have you seen? So maybe I lost Ginger.
Yeah, I think we lost Ginger too. We're not doing so hot.
Did you have something else, Nancy?
I don't. No, not. Well, one program I think if you challenge employees too to come up with some of those engagement programs or connections, we set a challenge out to our employees to come up with a better way to connect with clients, and they put together. It's called a Classic of the Year program, where every month they nominate somebody, each department nominates a customer and their car to win Classic of the Month, and then it leads into Classic of the Year. And that's been a really successful employee-grown, program that's all about sort of employees connecting to the clients on a personal level. That came to mind.
That's terrific. We actually have a live question, so I'll pose this to the group. Lynn Hunsaker is asking, what and why, behind the scenes functional areas, how do we keep them engaged in CX improvements? Jim, do you want to take that one first? Hey, Jim, I think you're still on mute.
Or we lost him again, maybe.
Oh, I'm just fierce and confused. Not lost at this time. I think there was a lot of examples that were actually given already on how you actually engage essentially behind the scenes types of people within the organization. You know, one of the things that I did is you know, make a recommendation, and that and gladly it was actually implemented, where just on the pay stubs that were given, you know, even though people were having electronic deposits and stuff, but the pay stubs were given out, and on that envelope it says this was made possible by a satisfied customer. That went to everyone. That even went to the janitor that was cleaning the restrooms. I mean, everybody has an effect and an impact. They just may not see it very clearly because they're just stuck in doing their day-to-day activities.
It's funny, you're right. Somehow when we walk in those front doors, we forget there's human beings and customers out there. I recall one client I used to work with who actually had it scrolling across the bottom of every PC screen. They had the comments from customers coming in and little messages about what they can do every day to change that experience. So another great way to keep it in front of folks, even if they're, as Lynn asked, behind the scenes and not really on the front-facing line. So
absolutely.
Since we lost Ginger, Lynn, Leslie, if you're still with us, we're coming up on our time frame. Are there any other questions?
Nope. It looks like we have no more questions live from our audience. But this has been a great hangout. If you all want to wrap up with maybe one final thought.
Absolutely. Nancy, you first. Since you're the award winner, we'll let you go first today.
Oh, goodness. Well, I'm flattered and among a group that I'm so impressed with, so thank you. I can't come up with a great final thought other than this has just been really fun, and we're celebrating CX Day here. We brought in a popcorn machine, and we have client comments wrapped around a popcorn bag, so I'll send you some pictures of that later. I'm anxious to get down there and see how the group's doing.
Terrific. Jim, how about you?
I guess I would have to really say, drop the word accountability. If anybody ever tells you, I'm holding you accountable, how does that make you feel? Don't use that word. You want to create ownership, create the environment to where that happens. Dump accountability.
Own it. Got it. How about you, Jeannie?
I would just say that, going back to something you said, Diane, about remembering that people kind of internalize information and communication all these different ways. So the more creative you can be, and not just leaning on metrics and numbers and things like that, that people can go, oh, it went up, it went down, and not really understand how that works. Sharing the anecdotes, sharing the good stuff, sharing the customer quotes, that can go a really far way towards improving customer experience in general. And happy CX Day, everybody. Very exciting.
That is terrific. And Nancy, like you, we're hosting our an event here as well. Our LNE is actually here at AT&T, and we're doing a hats off to customers. We decided to take all those crazy wild hats that we all had, and everybody's going to wear one and take their pictures of I Love Customers. So it's one more way we're trying to get people involved and make it fun. Okay. So we'll send some pictures your way as well, and as well to everybody else, we'll post them on the CX site. So happy CX Day, everybody. Thanks for joining our Google Hangout. I hope you learned some things about enthusiasm and the employees and how to involve them in everything we do every day. Have a great CX Day.
Thanks, Diane, and thanks to the rest of the panel. And we'd encourage you to join us in about 2 hours when we have our live webinar with guest Steve Cannon from Mercedes-Benz. And again, that is at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and you can go to www.cxday.org to register for that live webinar. We look forward to seeing you there and on our future Google Plus Hangouts. Thanks, everybody.